What's going on, everybody? This is James Grimm, Facts Boyce, and you're here for another Facts Project. Thank you for being here. And today, our special guest, Rodney Barnes, here live from the highway. I'm glad to talk to you, brother. Thank you for being here.
The side streets at this point, but yes, I'm telling you the side streets.
Oh, that's all right. I appreciate it. So, of course, I wanted to. Obviously, you're just getting back from New York Comic Con, so there's of course the drawback of doing that, and of course being at one of the major cons in the United States, and then having to talk a lot more about these stories that you keep putting out. Of course, I got Killadelphia behind me, and we get to talk about this brand new venture with Oni Press called Crownsville. Now, the way that this is basically put out. Now, this is a little bit more personal for you because you're from the Annapolis area.
I'm from Annapolis itself.
Okay. Now, my father's from Shadyside.
Oh, okay. My mother taught school down in Shadyside.
Okay. Yeah, my father went to Shadyside High School.
Oh, okay. All right. All right.
So I am a little knowledgeable of the area. But I am from Jersey. So to talk about this in detail, I do know about this particular facility. And the thing is, it's a 5-issue series about a psych hospital that was open from 1911 to 2004. Had bouts, of course, with segregation, overcrowding, mistreatment of patients, illegal medical experimentation. If you want to put it boldly on the sign, it used to say hospital for the Negro insane. And if they wanted to even make it more blatant, they just said the hospital for crazy black folk.
Yes.
Now, you've said in Crownsville is inspired by real life horrors. How much of the narrative is strictly historical versus fictional?
I try to integrate the two. My grandmother was a nurse there, and I had a couple of cousins that were patients there. And there were times when my grandmother would take me up there from time to time with her because I didn't have a babysitter. Back then, you just took the kids to work. And I remember just the amount of energy in the place. You wouldn't think parts of it were a psych hospital. You know, it operated almost like a farm sometimes. And then there were other buildings that did operate very much like a psych hospital. But it was so much a fabric of the African American community in the area at the time. It was almost like the boogeyman sometimes, that people would say, if you don't act right, I'm going to send you to Crownsville. And it was sort of like a joke, like a boogeyman kind of joke. But after it closed, there was an article or two that came out about the experiments and the torture, for lack of a better word, of some of the patients within these that had to be a part of these experiments. Some military, think the Tuskegee experiment, just on steroids. And for years and years and years with very little oversight. So when I went up one day to check it out, like it just sort of, no pun intended, haunted me. I was always intriguing. And it's condemned now. You can't go there. I went up there. Weeds are over, taking over everything. Well, one of the security guards stopped me, threatened to call the police, blah, blah, blah. And then once she found out why I was there, telling the story about the place, she softened and started to tell me stories about hearing people scream from the buildings late at night and seeing like ghosts, literally. And I'm like, all right, she might be, drinking on the job, who knows? And then all of the security guards, there were like 4 or 5 of them that would come out and they started talking, and they all had paranormal stories to tell. And the way they told them wasn't polished, and that sort of made it even more visceral. And there's a friend of mine, Antonia Hilton, and she wrote a book called Madness about Crownsville. It's it's nonfiction. And, she was telling me about her research and some of the things that she learned about the place. And it just felt compelling to me that, you got to write a story. And for me, since I write a lot of different things, but in comics, primarily horror and mystery and, that, I said, why not just write a story about the place that felt like a genre story? Because a lot of times when you write genre, you can hide things in there. It's like a Trojan horse in some ways. And that's what I wanted. Killadelphia has elements of that as well.
Now, did you uncover any surprising or little known facts that kind of shifted the approach of the story?
Not really. I mean, it was pretty straightforward. I tried to make it a personal story because it's not just about Crownsville. When I was growing up in the 70s, it took a moment for the area to sort of desegregate. So there was a African American beach called Carr's Beach,
Hmm.
really, really popular during the time where the Chitlin Circuit and Motown acts would come there and play, and people would come from all around the East Coast to come to the beach and see Marvin Gaye and James Brown and all these people. So I integrated a lot of the history of that period into the story. We go back and we flash back into periods of time, not only when the experiments were happening, but also to the history of the area as well.
Right. Mm. Now, how did your personal connection to Crownsville? Because you told me that your mother worked there.
My grandmother,
Your
yeah, and
your
that,
grandmother.
but that
Did-
was it. That was the personal connection.
Now, did that influence the tone and the emotional core of the story itself?
Yes, there were, I sort of do make an amalgam of my grandmother and my mother, and they become the central figure. There's an inciting incident that gets an adult um, newspaper guy who looks a lot like me
Hmm.
uh, that intrigues him about the place. And that's sort of a mashup of my mother and my grandmother.
Wow. Now, was there moments during like the development where you had to change or drop the story threads because of the sensitivity around the real history or
No,
limiting your documentation? No?
no, it was, once you get into the paranormal parts and, for lack of a better word, the fun parts, it's not real anyway. So you can sort of have creative license to do what you got to do, but always with respect for what the place is. Like I stay on story, very proud of the story. I stay on story throughout. And again, the genre is there to highlight the um, the atrocity.
Right. Now, I know your pacing in horror is very delicate. What was your approach in like structuring like the suspense? Because this is a 5 issue series.
Yes, and the first one is 40 pages, I believe. It's a double size issue.
Mm,
Um, I try to get you into the story quickly. Um, and I try to get you to a place where it's almost like an episode of Dateline. They do tricks in Dateline to keep you watching for 2 hours.
hmm.
If you get an all new 2 hour Dateline, which I do on Friday nights at 9 o'clock on NBC. Not that, I have any affiliation with it. I just love Dateline. So I
Right.
wrote it like a mystery. I wrote it like a mystery with some paranormal elements. And then as the story goes on, it becomes more and more and more visceral. If you think about a story like The Shining, where there are little things happening in the beginning, and then those little things become bigger things. And as the truth is revealed, um, it's all balls to the wall at a certain point.
Yeah. Now, of course, you talk a lot about the paranormal in with this book. How do you see the ghost aspect or the paranormal aspect functioning in Crownsville? Like, are they antagonists? Are they witnesses? Or are they basically memories?
The first two, poltergeists are, spirits that can't cross over for one reason or another,
Hmm.
and they can move things and they can do things. Some of some of this some of the characters, some of the ghosts are literal, and you know exactly why they're there. But there's another thing there that's tangible and physical, and that's the part that is sort of unexpected and plays into a big experiment that actually was true to a degree, a military experiment on children. And I take it, of course, I put I put flame under it and overcook it, but it is based in reality, and it crosses streams of ghosts and something else. I don't want to give it away.
Okay, got you. Now, the protagonist team up is a detective, Mike Sims, and
Yes,
and a journalist, Paul Blair.
Blair.
Paul
They
Blair.
put they put extra 4 letters on there. It's a typo, but Paul Blair is his name, who
Paul
was a
Blair.
baseball player for the Orioles. But yeah,
Mm, okay. Um,
way
so,
back in the day.
so this whole police detective journalist, we've seen this Bone Collector, Kiss the Girls, kind of like the Alex Cross type of team up.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
what do they bring in terms of the morality and the narrative tension, where you have a detective, the law, and then you have
Mhm.
somebody with the mighty sword of the pen?
That's a great question because what those things, these are older guys,
Hmm.
and if you think about a newspaper guy, people don't read newspapers anymore. So
Hmm.
everything's online and whatever. So this one, the newspaper guy feels like he's a dinosaur. Like, he's about to retire anyway. And for the detective, he's watching the city change. And a lot of this is me too. When I go back to Annapolis, it's not the Annapolis that I knew. It's
Hmm.
not the same place. It has evolved. And it's according to how you look at it. I'm nostalgic. I'm sentimental. I miss some of the things um, that I knew from my childhood. I miss the stakes that the African American community had in the city itself. Um, and some of the violence that's there right now was kind of unheard of, back in my time. That's when you know you're old, you start talking about time. But these guys kind of speak to how the world has changed, and they're really dealing with something that has been there for, like you said, 1911 to 2004, but no one's really dealt with. There's over 1,000 unmarked graves on the property.
Hmm.
And that has to be an energy that makes it difficult to sell the place, rebuild the place. There have been people talking about it for quite some time that they're going to, renovate it, make it a community center, make it a school, make it a this. But for some reason, it never happens. It always stops short. So I think there's a reason it stops short.
Mm. And now, how do their personal motivations tie into the history of the hospital?
Um, I think when you think about people who have been institutionalized, and some of the people that were taken there, from what I've read, studied, weren't insane. They were just malcontents or sometimes just bad luck. They just got caught up in something.
Yeah.
Um, and if you know this, if you know what this place used to be, and you're from this area like I do, like I am, you sort of you're sort of out to get justice for them as well. It's
Right.
not just about you. It's like they're solving a case. There's a case in the beginning that's separate from, the paranormal stuff. But once they get sucked into the idea of what this place is, now they're out to solve the mystery of the entire place and sort of reveal it to the world.
Mm. Now, do you view the spirits in the book as sympathetic victims or forces of nature, forces of vengeance?
Uh, 50-50.
Okay.
It's difficult to for people. You think about slavery. It's funny. I do a podcast called Run For where I tell scary stories.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, when we were doing research for ghost stories, because it was like folk tales from all around the country, and whenever they would get to, you know, the African American aspect of the show, because I am, all of the stories came from slavery, and I'm like, it can't be that show. But when you think about all of the atrocities, all of the lynchings, all of the killings, all of the pain and the hurt over 400 years. Um, Nobody really speaks about that um, in a way that feels like empathetic.
Right.
And so I think looking at these two, the detective and my newspaper man, they're the voice of that. They're trying to get to a place where these people have a voice, they had lives, they mattered, and we're going to solve the mystery of them the same way that we would go after anybody else.
Mm. Now, you have an artist, Elia Bonetti,
Yes.
who's doing this, and I saw the preview pages, and it's an excellent, unique style that she's basically put across in this first issue that I saw so far. Did
Yes.
she influence any narrative choices, sequencing the panels in the book?
Ellie is a he. And
Oh, I'm sorry.
he, no, it's all right. But what he did was, I thought the first thing was tone. I felt like his art suited the type of feel, that mystery, noir, kind of atmospheric feel
Yeah.
that I wanted to go for in a mystery. That was the first thing. And then, for the most part, he went with what I wanted in the script. And at a certain point, I was like, you're doing so well, you can take some liberties. I'm not precious with this.
Yeah.
And the book you have behind you with Killadelphia, I learned that from Jason. A lot of times when you let an artist go, he's the artist, he's doing the visual part. I don't want to hold him back and cripple him from being able to maybe take the book in a better direction um, than what I did. So, God bless him. I think he did fantastic work.
He absolutely did. And obviously, we were talking about the books behind me. You have variant covers done by Jason Shawn Alexander as well.
Do. I do. I can't escape Jason Shawn Alexander everywhere I go. And the thing with Jason, how Jason and I became, this married team within the realm of comic books. I went over to Jason's house one day. We
Mm,
were friends. We were working on another project that had nothing to do with, well, I was interviewing him for an art book. We
okay.
weren't making anything together. And Jason's a white guy. And when I got to his house, there were these paintings of sad black people. All of like these were the saddest black people. I felt sad looking at these pictures, but I'd never seen anyone depict an era the way he did, and you felt everything.
Hmm.
And so I was like, I want to work with him. And he was the one that connected Elia and I because Jason and I did Blacula as well.
Yeah.
36 issues of Killadelphia. We've got a couple of the other books coming out now. We did a Batman book together. Um, at a certain point, I just wanted a different look because I want people to think, and the only way I can work is with Jason.
Right.
Even though I would love to work with Jason all the time, it's nice to be able to get different tones and different feels sometimes with different stories.
Mm. Now back to Elia. What kinds of reference or visual research were shared with them? Architectural plans, old photos,
I
hospital
think he did
layouts.
a lot of, yeah, all of that stuff. I think I can tell from like the elementary school was he got that. I can tell he found pictures because a lot of the places look exactly like the places look. Like Crownsville looks like Crownsville.
Yeah. Yeah, no, all of it looked phenomenal. Like as far as like how he was able to put that across, that made for a better story, and it gives you the nostalgic feel to it.
Exactly. And even for like probably the vast majority of people who will read this story have never seen Crownsville, don't know it exists, et cetera, et cetera. But for me, same as with Killadelphia, I feel like the more realistic that you get with the imagery, the closer it feels to reality, even if you don't know, you don't have a reference point in reality to the place.
True. Now, a horror involving usually like a historical trauma can have like a risk of re-traumatization. Did you
Yes.
approach anything with like an ethical boundary to it?
Um, I think again, if you're talking like, I remember somewhere around 12 Years a Slave, people started talking about this, like, using slavery as trauma.
Hmm.
Um, I don't really go down that road because it's not the period of slavery.
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of the torture. Um, you see the you see the aftermath, and most of the ghosts are getting revenge in this story.
Hmm.
And they tell you what their trauma was. You don't necessarily see it. You see their power. So I don't think that it operates in a place where it's sort of, I'm looking for sympathy per se. I'm looking more for empathy.
Right.
How would you feel if this happened to you or one of your family members?
Mm. Now,
Regardless of culture, ethnicity, race, whatever,
oh yeah,
how would this make you feel if you were to endure this? I'm going for that more so than the other side.
yeah. And even with you leaving in this big mystery, of course, leading into the latter, probably like the latter books of the series.
Yes.
How are you juggling the explanation of like say like the medical experiments, the neglect, the abuse versus letting that mystery remain?
I don't reveal exactly what the experiment was until we get to near the end,
Hmm.
um, because there's a transition period from the things that happen to get our detective on the case. And once we sort of evolve from that period, then we get to a place where we start to talk about why this place exists. And we learn that the past is very much connected to why things are happening today. So you think about like a movie like Poltergeist where you had ghosts from the Revolutionary War in different periods. It just like was like ancient burial ground.
Yeah.
Uh, I deal with it sort of kind of like that.
Mm. Now, this is a singular question. How do you write fear? Me being the reader, how do you write fear in order for me to consume it and feel it?
I try to make it relatable. I mean, I think that there are certain things, for instance, when I see a story about a child being hurt on the news, I feel it because I have children.
Yep.
And I feel like I can immediately put myself in the shoes of parents who've gone through whatever, like immediately. And again, it goes to that idea of empathy. Um, what must it have felt like to be in those circumstances? So I speak a lot to character. You know, if I can make you, something I learned from Stephen King a long time ago, if I can get you to care about someone, it doesn't matter what the horror is. You don't want to see anything bad to them because you relate to whatever they're going through. I try to make these characters relatable. And that speaks also to what you were saying a moment ago. You were asking about the trauma, re-traumatizing people.
Hmm.
A lot of times, if you just show the trauma, you just show the pain.
Yeah.
Think of movies like Mississippi Burning and, if you are, like I said, 12 Years a Slave, where you see so much torture
Yeah.
that at a certain point you can't even feel the story in the same way because, you are being traumatized in a way. It doesn't come off like a ghost story. It doesn't come off like a mystery. It comes off as something else because I think we're still connected in a spiritual way to the things that our ancestors went through. And here, the story is more about redemption. So that's the focus for me: redemption, salvation, uh, and working through the difficulties of the past.
Mm. Do you feel as though it's always a point to hold up the magnifying glass to some of the problems that have affected us in the African American community that people do not see?
Yes, I don't know how much these stories actually do because a lot of times when people don't see them, they don't want to see them.
Hmm.
So it's not like if you tell the right story or you, explain it in such a way they're going to get it. Some people just don't want to get it. And all I try to do is tell the best story that I possibly can. I try to be as respectful to the reality of what people have gone through in
Yep.
this dynamic. Um, and try to be classy and dignified with it while still being entertaining at the end of the day. You're still buying entertainment. I don't want it to ever become, when I'm writing about history, it becomes like a lesson,
Yeah.
like it's medicine, like you're obligated to read it because of what it is and what it's about. I approach this like a ghost story and I approach the characters like they're real. Any of the other stuff is under all of the other stuff that you're consuming.
Mm. Now, without spoiling too much, over
Yep.
over the 5 issues, do you have a particular turning point that you're especially excited about?
Um, it's funny. I've written all of the work is done with the exception of the last issue, which is what I'm writing as we speak.
Right.
Uh, I'm excited about the last issue as much as I am the others because A, I love working with genre. I love the area. All of this is selfish. Everything I'm saying right now is selfish.
Good.
As a kid, if I were to have grown up and you would tell me one day, Rodney, you're going to be able to tell a ghost story about your hometown
Hmm.
and you know everything, the Denny's, all of the landmarks exist, all of the cultural touch points, they're real. That part for me and being able to sort of stick the landing, there's a if you read the pilot of Killadelphia, the first issue, and in the end when he opens up the coffin, what happens? uh, I'm looking for this entire issue to be that.
Hmm.
If you stick with this journey through these 5 issues, I want the last issue to be as satisfying as the first. So for me, selfishly, the last issue.
Mm. Now, of course, I had to look this up as far as New York Comic Con. Oni Press is debuting their new logo
Yes,
with Crownsville. Do you feel like this is a step forward in a new era for Oni Press? That they give you the carte blanche to be the opening for the brand new logo?
I do. And, a big shout out to Hunter and Dave Stewart, who have been incredibly supportive of the book, of me in general. And it's things like that, that they allow me to be a part of their transition into a new era. And I think I love the variance. I love the amount of attention, even being able to have this conversation with you. All of this is because of Oni.
Hmm.
And I'm very, very thankful. I've had a lot of indie books come out and they just came out. They just were on the stands. And if it's up to my social media in order to get it out of there. And I
Yeah,
got a good amount of followers, but I can't make a book a hit by myself. Um, Oni is doing the heavy lifting, and I am blessed and honored to be able to be working with them.
that's fantastic. Now, what do you hope readers take away emotionally and intellectually by the end of the series?
History matters, people matter, um, and the past should not be swept away.
Mm, excellent, sir. I appreciate
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you doing this with me.
Thank you. No, I appreciate being able to have the conversation with you, especially as I'm driving. Like I said, I took the long way
Right.
just so we could talk longer. But I appreciate all of this. And I hope you enjoy the book. I hope you let me know what you think.
Absolutely. I'll make sure to do so. So for everybody here at the Facts Project, Crownsville debuts, what is it? It's like in a few weeks, correct?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. So as far as Oni Press, we're
I
going
think
to be
it's
debuting.
November 5th.
Yep.
I
November
think it's
5th.
November 5th. I
Yep.
think so. Yeah.
Yep, first week of November, November 5th, Crownsville one will be debuting for Oni Press. You'll actually see their brand new logo attached to this first brand new issue. So for everybody out there, go out there and get that. So for myself, James Grandmaster Facts Boyce, Rodney Barnes, the great Rodney Barnes, thank you for being here, and we will see you next time. We are out.